Today we're going to be looking at some more Mate 1 puzzles, and this is our final Mate 1 puzzle video. There'll be 5 puzzles, plus the one that you get to solve on your own, which will be at the end of the video, so be sure to stick around. And the first puzzle will be the answer to the puzzle at the end of last week's video. As well as that, you'll have 30 seconds for each puzzle, and if you need more time, you can pause the video. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the first 9 videos about Mate 1 and the other chess videos. Thank you so much for watching my videos, and if you're curious, the next videos will be about tactics like the pin, the fork, and skewer, and many more. So, that being said, let's get started. So, this is the puzzle from last time, and it's black to play. If you didn't watch the video, or you didn't get this far in the video last time, I suggest you try and solve it now. If you want, you can pause the video and solve it, or you can try and solve it really quickly. So, the correct move was queen to d1 checkmate. This is checkmate because the king is in check thanks to the d1 queen, and the king can't move to f1, e2, or d2 because the black queen controls all 3 of those squares. The king also can't move to f2 because there is a white pawn there, and the white king cannot move on top of a white pawn. The king can also not capture the queen because the d8 rook defends it. The knight on c3 cannot capture the queen because if the knight captured the queen, then the bishop would be checking the king. And this is an example of an absolute pin, which I'll explain in next week's video about pins. So, there's nothing to block, to check, or capture the queen, so this is checkmate. Let's move on to our first puzzle for today. So this is the first puzzle, which is white to play, and you have 30 seconds starting now. Time is up. The correct move is queen to f5 checkmate. This is checkmate because the king is in check thanks to the f5 queen, and the king can't move to e5, e6, f7, g6, or g5 because the queen on f5 controls all 5 of those squares. The king also can't move to e7 or g7 because there are black pieces on those squares, and the black king cannot move on top of black pieces. The king cannot capture the queen because the e4 pawn defends it. There's nothing to block the check or capture the queen, so this is checkmate. Let's move on to our next puzzle. So here's the next puzzle. It's black to play, and you have 30 seconds starting now. Time is up. The correct move is queen to g4 checkmate. This is checkmate because the king is in check thanks to the g4 queen, and the king can't move to h2, g2, or f2 because there are white pawns on all those squares, and the white king cannot move on top of the white pawns. So the king also can't move to h3, h4, f3, or f4 because the queen on g4 controls all of those squares. The king can't capture the queen because the f6 knight is defending the queen. There is nothing else to capture the queen, and there's no way to block the check. So this is officially checkmate. Let's move on to the next puzzle. This puzzle is also black to play. You have 30 seconds starting now. Time is up. The correct move is queen into g2, checkmate. This is checkmate because the king is in check thanks to the g2 queen and can't move to h1, f1, or f2 because the queen on g2 controls all three of their squares. The king also can't move to h2 because there's a white pawn on h2, and the white king cannot move on top of the white pawn. The king also can't capture the queen because it is defended by the e4 bishop. There's nothing to block the check or capture the queen, so this is checkmate. Let's move on to the next puzzle. So this puzzle is white to play, and you have 30 seconds starting now. Time is up. The correct move is rook to c4, checkmate. This is checkmate because the king is in check thanks to the c4 rook and can't move to d5 because the knight on b6 is controlling the square. The king also can't move to d4 because the c4 rook is controlling that square. The king can't move to e3 or f3 because the king on f2 is controlling both those squares. The king can't move to d3 because there is a black pawn on d3 and the black king cannot move on top of the black pawn. The king can't capture the pawn on e5 because that pawn is defended by the f4 pawn. Speaking of which, the f4 pawn cannot be captured by the king because then the rook would still be checking the king. The king can't move to f5 because the g4 pawn is controlling that square. The king cannot move anywhere. There's nothing to block the check or capture the rook, so this is officially checkmate. Let's move on to the next puzzle. So this is the next puzzle, which is black to play, and you have 30 seconds starting now. Time is up. The correct move is bishop to e6, checkmate. This is checkmate because the king is in check thanks to the e6 bishop and can't move to d4 or b4 because the knight on c2 is controlling both those squares. The king also can't move to d5 because the bishop on e6 is controlling that square. The king can't move to c5 because the king on b6 is controlling that square. And the king can't move to d3, c3, b3, or b5 because all of those squares have white pieces on them, and the white king cannot move on top of the white piece. There's nothing to block the check or capture the bishop, so this is checkmate. And this puzzle is the puzzle that I'd like for you to try on your own. This is Maiden 1 and White to play, and thank you so much for watching this far in the video. So you can try this puzzle out, and next week I'll tell you the answer. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching this far in the video. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any feedback, you can post it in the comments or the form in the description of all videos. The form is completely anonymous, so I won't know who filled it out. Please hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this one. And you can visit the chess playlist to see all the chess videos. So I just want to thank you one more time for watching this video, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye!